Hello YouTube, this is Mike. Welcome to the channel. Alright, so today we are going to take a look at how insidious the delusion is when it comes to thinking that you're making progress either in the relationship with your borderline or with yourself. Sometimes you think you're being strong when what you're really doing is you're digging yourself deeper and deeper into the trauma bond addiction. So I didn't give myself enough time to do it, so I'm writing down here what you need to do. Generally speaking, the name of this channel is the 4 things that heal BPD and NPD abuse. So I'm writing those down now. The first one is to go complete no contact, which means you make it impossible for them to contact you. If you haven't done that, you have not gone no contact. We're going to talk about that. Number 2 of the 4 things is you work all 12 steps of coda.org with a sponsor, and then you sponsor someone else. If you haven't done that, you have not done thing number 2, and if you have not done thing number 2, you have not done the 4 things. I don't care how much of the other 3 you've done. I'm telling you what I have found to be an infallible cure for the relationship pain you're experiencing. So number 2 is you work all 12 steps of coda.org with a sponsor and then sponsor someone else. And then number 3 is you work with a psychologist, somebody who's qualified to help you unwrap your unconscious. And then number 4, daily meditation, which is really just step 11 of the 12 steps. Those are the 4 things. That's what this channel is about. Any of the talking that I do, even including the talking I will do today about BPD and BPD relationships, is meaningless. If you don't do the 4 things, in my experience, it's virtually impossible to heal or to get true awareness. All right, so in order to underscore that, let me see, what did I title this as? Loving a Borderline, the soap opera of the BPD empath relationship, the delusional bittersweet fantasy. So we've talked a lot about how borderlines are incapable of loving you. They can't see you for who you are. We talk a lot about that. I try to hammer home to you that if you're with somebody that has BPD, they have a mental illness that prevents them from being able to bond and to stay in a romantic relationship. In fact, if you are with a borderline, what you can be guaranteed will happen either today, tomorrow, or 10 years from now. You can be guaranteed that what will happen is they will discard you. They will discard you in the worst possible way, and there is literally nothing you can do. In fact, everything that you would do in order to love them and make them feel loved is going to be the very thing that will end up forcing them to discard you completely and horribly. So this creates a soap opera. So I'm just going to go ahead and read a couple of comments. Before I do, I want to update on a comment that I was reading on not too long ago. See if I can find it. It was a comment I was reading not too long ago about in one of the most recent videos having to do with an empath / codependent who wanted to educate me on what goes on in the mind of a codependent. And I shared, I'll walk you through the conversation. We've talked about it already, but this is in response to a video I made entitled Loving a Borderline Stuck in a Victim Loop, Why You Can't Escape the Grip of the Borderline, or something like that. This person says, a person who ends up with a BPD may not be their victim, but they likely have been a victim of abuse. Same as the person with BPD. Codependents who have not had therapy may find shaming statements more traumatic than beneficial. And there's 4 thumbs up. So there's a lot of people that agree with that. Now I hear that as she's saying in a very passive-aggressive, non-committal way that she's accusing me of making shaming statements and traumatizing codependents. She's also condescending to me, assuming that I don't know what I say in every single one of my videos, which is that someone who's been in a relationship with a borderline themselves was a victim of childhood neglect and perhaps outright abuse. So anyway, we talked about that already. So I respond to her and I say, are you accusing me of making shaming statements? Be specific. What exactly did I say that was shaming? And I meant that. What was it? Go back and find out. Minute this, that, and the other. Here was the quote. Maybe if I look at it in hindsight, maybe I'll agree. I don't know. I would like to know that. So there wasn't a direct response to that. She says, what you are saying could be interpreted that way. As I said before, both the codependent and the person with BPD are likely abuse victims. I have watched more of your videos and I see that you do delve into that. I'm glad that you are in the healing process or have healed, but you do come off as abusive sometimes. Maybe it's your version of tough love. So instead of responding to that, I went to, again, what this channel is about, and I asked, so have you done the 4 things yet? And here was her response. Her response was, still working on them, smiley face, and very proud of my progress. Why is that an important response? Because as I said in the last video, I said that the main mental block that codependents have when it comes to their own healing is they interpret everything as a comment on their perfection. So everything anybody says is either validating them as being a good boy or a good girl and doing the right thing, or it is an attack on them. Even if that somebody says, wow, you've got like a little piece of food right there, you're gonna be, if you're a codependent, you're gonna feel like somebody just shamed you because they pointed out something, when they're actually helping you out. You might want to get rid of that. If I say, this is why when I say to people, if you've been in a relationship with a borderline, by definition, you're a codependent, because the dynamic is a codependent relationship. So that by definition makes you a codependent. People can't tolerate that. They want to say, yes, I've been into this and they did that, but that doesn't mean I'm a codependent. And the reason why is because the label of codependent makes them feel that they have been criticized as being imperfect. And that's the worst thing that a codependent can feel, is imperfect. Because as a child, this is true for narcissists and borderlines as well as for codependents. As a child, you were not loved for who you were. We talk about this all the time. You were loved for what you did. And so you got the message that to be loved, to be approved of is love. And so in order to be approved of, you have to meet other people's needs. So the codependent presents themselves as an empath, meaning I just care about other people. I'm only here to make other people feel better because I care about them. But the truth is, they spend their lives trying to take care of other people and fix other people because that's how they get their value, their worth, and more important, that's what makes them feel as though they exist. Just like the biker, I've moved to Florida, so I see now more bikers than I have ever wanted to ever see in my life. Just like the biker who has the loudest vehicle on the road, and it is so loud you can hear them 10 miles away. It always makes me feel, I want to take that person aside and say, you'll still exist even if I don't hear your very loud machine. Now, I don't know enough about bikers to know if they're all that insecure, if that's just my thing, but that is definitely a codependent thing. But the way that they make themselves seen and heard is by being perfect. And so that's why when I asked, have you done the 4 things? Her response was to say, I'm very proud of my progress. So here is my response to that. I said, that's awesome that you're proud of your progress, but that is beside the point. This is not a test. Your performance is not being graded. Now I understand why you're so sensitive to someone feeling shamed. We talked about this last time. This whole comment of her trying to give me unsolicited advice about how I'm shaming people and how I should do blah, blah, blah. Again, a very codependent thing. She's not saying that she felt shamed by what I said. She's above all that. She's going to deign and condescend and advise me on how codependents feel, as though I don't know. So I say, I understand now why you're so sensitive to someone feeling shamed. Because instead of just answering the question, yes, I'm on 1 and 2 of the 4 things, or no, I'm not doing the 4 things, or I'm not sure that the 4 things are right for me, or I've been working with a psychologist, or whatever her response could be, she completely, totally doesn't do that because, again, she knows if she tells me whatever information, that could be fodder for me, in her mind, to judge her. Because I might respond and say, but I'm here to tell you the 4 things are the only thing in my experience that's going to heal you. Instead of looking at that objectively to go, I wonder if what he says is true or not, her main response is going to be to protect that feeling of not wanting to feel judged and shamed. And so that's why it's the main obstacle, because if your main response to people is to protect yourself from shame and or to prove your worth so you can get approval, you won't be able to ask questions honestly about what you can do to heal yourself. So that's why in the what do we call that? The discussion of the live feeds, I always ask for honest questions, because when you're asking an honest question, you're not in that phase, you're not in that mindset. And that's why if somebody asks a question, I'll know if it's passive aggressive or something else or leading, and I'll say that's not an honest question. It's not to make you feel shamed or to make you feel wrong. It's to point out to you that you're not in that mindset that is most beneficial for you. Because if you're truly secure in yourself, you're going to want to know. Well, I want to know, is there something I can do that will make me feel better? Please tell me. So I just wanted to give an update on that. I responded to her and I said, I understand why you're so sensitive to someone feeling shamed. In other words, I'm not shaming anybody, but somebody feeling shamed, as I said before, is not my problem. Their response based on their programming, again, I'm not responsible for that any more than I'm responsible for the borderline feeling that me looking at my watch made them feel as though I completely devalued their existence. I wasn't. I was trying to find out, okay, when should I let her know that I've bought her the diamond ring and I'm going to marry her? But what she saw was, oh my God, this is taking so long. I'm going to break up with her in 5 minutes. So it's not my problem how people feel if they're responding inaccurately to what I'm doing. But it's also very understandable when I say you're a codependent, or in order to heal you need to do this. Are you doing that? It's very common for a codependent to respond defensively and respond passive aggressively and to deflect. Again, that was a very deflecting response when I asked, have you done the 4 things yet? Still working on them. That was a deflection. And then I'm very proud of my progress. In other words, don't even ask anymore because you'll be shaming me, and I'm proud, and you don't have the right to take my pride away. And I'm not interested in you being proud or shamed. I'm interested to know if you're taking the medication that I think will cure you. That's all I care about. So I say, doing the 4 things is very simple, and the answer to the question, have you done the 4 things, is a yes or no question. It's not, I'm doing my best. That's not the response. Doing your best is great. If you're doing all 4 things, which everybody can do, it's not impossible. It's not like you can't do all 4. The only one of the 4 that you might have difficulty with is finding a therapist that you would pay for. But you can be doing that, looking for the ways to find that while you're doing 1, 2, and 4. So that counts. Trying to find the money for a psychologist, or trying to find a psychologist you can afford. Going through the actions to make that happen, anybody can do, and that doesn't cost anything. And things 1, 2, and 4 are completely free. So the response, still working on them, is fuck you, I'm not going to tell you. And it's a deflection. It means no. I almost said, oh, so you're not doing it. But she might take that as shaming. And to be proud of your progress. Great. Again, you should be proud of your progress, but having pride in your progress isn't as important as, are you doing the things that can be done? And the 4 things can be done. The fact that you're proud about it, great. Beside the point. And so I went on to say, there's no shame if the answer is no. But it does explain your sensitivity and your projection here. You're projecting onto me your sensitivity to feeling judged on your performance. I invite you to watch more of my videos, and instead of justifying your progress, take an honest look if you have truly investigated the 4 things, and if not, I suggest doing them. You won't need to protect your reputation or feel so judged on your performance. If you do the 4 things, you won't need to do that. But it's also, this is my suggestion. I'm not God. You don't have to do it. If somebody says, I don't think these will work for me, I'm like, okay, there's nothing I can say to that. Somebody wants to argue with me about it, then I'm going to want to get into it and, psychoanalyze, because it's sales. Whenever you get into a sales job, if you've ever gotten in one, you know that any response that you're getting from your potential customer, if they're responding to you in any way, even if it's, I have to talk to my wife, or this isn't going to work for me, or I don't like that, it's actually, according to sales, you're asking for more information. So as long as you interact with me and you're not abusive, I'm going to do what I can to give you the information that I think will help you. Whether you take it or not is completely up to you. But whether or not you feel shamed, I'm not shaming you. I don't care. It's again, going back to you go to the doctor, you've got a bacterial infection. You say, doctor, I have these symptoms. And the doctor says, oh my God, you have syphilis. Here is a bottle of some antibiotics. Take these twice a day for 3 weeks and you'll be cured. You go home, you take 1 or 2, makes you a little uncomfortable with a little upset stomach. You don't take another for a few days. The symptoms don't go away, and you come back 2 months later and you say, Doc, the symptoms are still there. And he says, did you take the medication? You said, I did my best and I'm very proud of my progress. He's going to go, did you take the medication? And you're going to say, well, no, I didn't take all of them, but that's because, and then you'll give excuses, and he'll say, all I told you to do is take the medication. This isn't about you being a good person or a bad person. If you don't finish the bottle, you will not. Now I have to give you a whole completely different antibiotic prescription, but you have to follow the directions or it won't work. So this nonsense of I'm still working on it, I'm doing the best I can, I feel for you. I feel for your need to justify your existence. I feel for your need to your need to feel loved and accepted and approved of. But it's moot. Did you take the medication or not? You can decide whether or not you think I'm telling you the truth. Or whether or not it'll work for you. I'm only telling you what I know for a fact has worked for me, and every single person that I've seen do it, it has worked for them if they keep at it long enough. In my experience, everybody who has not done all of those things, I have not seen anybody fully recover. I've seen them at best gain a little bit, maybe intermittent, but there's always this sadness that never goes away. There's always this pain that never goes away. There's always this longing. There's the guilt. There's the rumination. Those things never completely go away 10, 20, 30 years later. So that's why I say the most important things you can do are 1, 2, and 4. And you'll get, 1, Yeah, 1, 2, and 4. You can get to number 3 at some point. But if I had to pick between 2 and 3, I'd definitely pick 2, which is working the 12 steps. Without any doubt whatsoever, because it changes your neural pathways. And the question again is, do you want to feel better? Not, do you want to feel justified? I have no interest in placating your need to feel justified and accepted. That's your own thing with your own parents in your own head. I'm not interested in getting involved in that. I've got the bottle of antibiotics. Do you want it or not? Here it is. Take it. I've got unlimited bottles of antibiotics for all of you. Take it and go do it, or don't. But don't waste my time with wanting to get into, am I shaming you? Are you doing your best? It's meaningless. Meaningless. All right. Let me get on to the comment du jour. This is somebody who is asking, and they ask in this comment, they ask for my help. Now, normally I don't like to read these long soap operas because I don't want to co-sign people's stuff. Go ahead and do the work or don't do the work. But I found it entertaining, if I'm being honest with you. I did laugh out loud, a belly laugh numerous times. Having said that, I won't do that now because it's not my intention to shame anybody. But it is a very typical mindset. This is somebody who watches the channel. By their own admission, they are not doing the 4 things. And even though they know, by telling me they're not doing the 4 things, they are opening themselves up to perhaps loving ridicule from me about it. They want me to respond, so I'm going to. So I'm going to take you into the soap opera that is this person's dysfunctional codependent relationship, and I'm going to answer this person's question. So this person says, "Hey Mike, would love your feedback / thoughts on something that happened this weekend. New Year's morning, my ex knocked on my door at 3 a.m. I let her in, and while she was planning to sleep on the couch, we naturally were in the same bed and messed around. Naturally. The morning of, we had great conversation about our relationship. We then both drove to a gas station to say goodbye. We did this at a gas station because I needed to pick up an energy drink for context. That was a very codependent thing to do. I wasn't even thinking why. That's a very normal thing to drive to gas stations, why you needed to explain that. Again, very codependent. When we were saying goodbye, of course, a ton of emotions flew through both of us. We were both crying pretty hard, and it was an overall hard thing to go through. It was essentially another breakup. But she did ask me, quote, "Is this what you really wanted?" unquote, to which I responded with, quote, "It's not that simple," unquote. Ultimately, we said our final goodbyes, and I drove off. I know if I said something along the lines of, "I miss you, let's give this another shot," she would have agreed and we would have gotten back together, but I didn't. And I'm really proud of myself for holding my ground. Again, this is about being a good person or a bad person. And he's proud of himself. I'm really proud of myself for holding my ground here. I know if I go back, I would get abused all over again. Not playing a victim. It's my bear trap. I'm wondering what this means. Does this mean I'm not a codependent? I'm still a codependent, but just tired of her splits? Was this just a moment of strength, and I may have a moment of weakness in the future for her? Very curious here. Context. Oh, it's always good to give context. I haven't done the 4 things. I'm shocked. I never would have known by reading that. Technically no contact, but she knows where I live, at least until 1/7, since I'll be moving. It was definitely a very toxic relationship and is 100% codependent. Broke up multiple times. I was pulling extra weight for the relationship, but it never seemed to be enough, the whole 9 yards. So this person's very interested in my thoughts. Well, what a surprise. A codependent wants me to delve into their drama and give them some attention and delve into it, and I am. So what is my response to that? The main question you asked was, does this mean I'm not codependent? Wondering what this means. The short answer is, does this mean you're not a codependent? And or were you operating in a non-codependent way? Were you strong? Were you acting from strength? Were you acting from awareness? Were you acting outside of the dysfunction of codependence? Drum roll. Not by a long shot. This is the epitome of codependent soap opera drama. Do I need to spell it out? New Year's morning, of course, New Year's, right? The day, it's the end of the Christmas holiday. It's the day where you're supposed to spend time with your family. It is after midnight, or at midnight, you're supposed to kiss somebody. If you don't kiss somebody on New Year's Eve, in social terms, you are the most ridiculous, pointless, pathetic loser of a person because you're all by yourself. And you're saying that somehow 3 a.m. New Year's morning, your borderline ex, whom you haven't gone no contact with, knocks on your door, and this is a surprise to you? And then when she knocks on your door at 3 a.m., you let her in. So to answer your question, does this mean you're not codependent? So far, everything you did is the epitome of the codependent allowing the borderline complete access to you. Because what? On a holiday, you did not invite her over. You did not give her, as far as I know, permission to come over. She knocks on your door at 3 a.m. and you get up to open it. I mean, don't tell me you didn't think it was her. You knew it was her, right? You get up to open your door at 3 a.m. and instead of saying, what the hell are you doing in my house? I'm asleep. Go away. You let her in. And then while she's planning to sleep on the couch, she's planning to sleep on the couch and we naturally were in the same bed and messed around. What does that mean? If she was planning on sleeping on the couch, she would have come in and she would have said, listen, I don't want to bother you. I just need a place to sleep. I'm going to crash on your couch. Go back to bed. So what do you mean naturally we were in the same bed and naturally we messed around? This is your borderline ex, who I'm assuming was very hurtful, which she devalued you many, many times, according to you. And what you did was, when she came over at a very inappropriate time, without permission, without being invited, you not only let her in, but you let her get into your bed with you and you had sex with her. And you want to know if you weren't codependent? I would say again, that is the epitome of codependence. Not only is it the epitome of codependence, but it completely fits the playbook of exactly what a borderline wants. That's what she wanted. She wanted some narcissistic supply. She wanted, I mean, again, coming in at knocking at your door at 3 o'clock in the morning and you not mentioning, this crazy woman comes into my house at 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't believe how selfish it was of her, how presumptuous it was, how annoying it was. I can't believe, no, your response was, she came over, I let her in, and of course we ended up in bed together and messed around. It means you were so happy to see her. Your fantasy was fulfilled. The moment you heard her knocking, you knew it was her. You rushed to the door. And in fact, you had a bottle of champagne on, it's been sitting there for 3 months. You've been waiting for her to show up, and you can say, well, it's New Year's. I'm not saying you did that, but you get what I'm saying. It's so obvious you couldn't wait for her to show up. What do you mean? We naturally ended up in bed and one thing led to another, and oops. And this is the woman who's devalued you and harmed you so badly, and it doesn't even dawn on you that what you've just said was incredibly dysfunctional and codependent, and that you are being used. And there's no awareness that you are just an object to be used by this selfish, dysfunctional person. Doesn't even dawn on you. And all of the other codependents listening to this, including me, is excited. Oh, that's so awesome. You were all alone on New Year's Eve and she showed up and you got sex. It's very codependent. And then the next day, surprise, surprise, you have a great conversation about your relationship. And what have I said about how this works? When the borderline comes back in and hoovers you back, what is it that they do brilliantly? They talk about their feelings. In fact, they have such deep awareness of their feelings, it's hard to imagine that this is somebody with a mental illness. They are able to connect with you, and you call it a relationship. And you had a great conversation about the relationship. And you're asking me if that's codependent. It means that you don't have the first clue what being hoovered by a borderline is, because that's exactly what happened. You go on to say, we then both drove to a gas station to say goodbye, and then in order to make sure I don't judge you, you make sure I understand that you did that because you needed an energy drink. Like, that really matters. I could care less. And when we were saying goodbye, the emotions flew and the tears flew, and the violins were playing, and the birds were flying, and it was a really beautiful ending to the bittersweet love story. And you were both crying, and it was hard. It was a hard thing to go through. Your heart was getting wrenched out, which means you had hope. You wanted it to work. And you said, and then you say it was essentially another breakup. And here's where you're wrong. That wasn't a breakup. That was a makeup. That's how borderlines make up. You say, she asked some question which doesn't mean anything. And you responded with something that doesn't mean anything either. And you ultimately said your final goodbyes. No, you didn't. You didn't say your final goodbyes. You know it wasn't your final goodbye. She's in like Flynn, Daddy-O. She knows she got you. If you had said to her, what are you doing in my house? I'm going to call the cops. Get the hell out of here. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I broke up with you. This is really a violation of my privacy and my boundaries. What the hell are you doing here? Then I would have said, yes, maybe you're not a codependent. But for you to go through all that and then you're crying in the final goodbye. There's no final goodbye here. Who are you kidding? And then you say, I know if I said something along the lines of, I miss you, let's give it another shot, she would have agreed and we would have gotten back together. You did get back together. How do I know that? She knocked on the door, you let her in, you let her into your bed, you had sex with her, and then you and then you talked about your relationship, and then you had a very emotional goodbye. That's called getting back together. For a borderline, that is you gave her what she wanted. You're right. If you had said, well, let's give it another try, she would have said yes, because then she would have continued with, what she wanted, which was to get you back and then ultimately discard you. But she also loves the idea of you saying, we just can't do this. We're twin flames and we just keep harming each other and we just can't do this. And she wants that as well because it's bittersweet and she can hold on to that, and you're still crying and you love her and she knows she has you in her back pocket. She knows it's just a matter of time. She loves the idea of you being out of reach because borderlines love it when you're just out of reach. So she's not going to be stimulated to to split on you because you're not getting on your knees and giving her a diamond ring. You're saying, we can't do this. It's too much. So she's in heaven. You gave her everything she wanted, and you threw your soul into the toilet to do it. Does this mean that you had a moment of strength? No. She played you, and you fell right into it. Does this mean that you're not a codependent? Not in the slightest. Was this just a moment of strength? Hell no. It was a moment of tremendous codependent weakness. And it is something I myself did myself numerous times. Again, I'm not judging you for people who think I'm shaming this guy. I'm not shaming this guy. I did the exact same thing multiple times. That's how I know. Now, had this been a, quote, normal relationship? Maybe. I can remember when I split up with my wife, my now ex-wife. You know, the relationship had been rocky and things got worse and worse and worse until finally we blew up a couple of times and said, I guess the relationship is over. I guess blah, blah, blah. And then we decided to separate legally, which is just, you know, we're one step away from divorce, which means that we're getting ready for divorce, but we're telling ourselves we're going to take some time away. Everybody does it. And then the night before that I was going to go drive off with, you know, my suitcase and a few clothes, we decided to have sex one last time, and it was beautiful and wonderful. And we cried a couple of tears, and we said, we'll talk in a few days and we'll work this out. And we never did. That's what you're trying to describe here. We went to the gas station, and in between sips of my energy drink, we said goodbye and we cried a lot, and it was beautiful. Now, that's reserved for normal relationships, not borderline relationships. What you did was you got hoovered. You're telling yourself that you've broken up for the final time, but you know, you and I both know you can't wait for her to come back. She has so much hope because you let her back in when she wanted. It doesn't matter that you guys were broken up. She came in and you gave her exactly what she wanted when she wanted it, when she was at her lowest, on New Year's Eve, when she felt completely abandoned and unworthy. And you didn't even bother to ask, why is it 3 o'clock in the morning? Where had she just been? Who had she just been with? Are you the first person in line for the New Year's Eve sex fest? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. That would have been my first thought is, oh, so your other boyfriend kicked you out? 3 o'clock in the morning, New Year's Eve? You're lonely? You feel like you're a loser, and so you want me to make you feel loved? And then you're going to discard me when it's all done? That's what would have been my first thought. And so you say, context, I haven't done the 4 things, obviously. And technically, no contact. There is no such thing as technically no contact. No contact means that you have made it impossible for them to contact you. That is extremely important. Excuse me. If you don't make that commitment and actually take the actions so that it is impossible for them to contact you, you're still in contact. And how do I know? Because she showed up at your house and you let her in. So you're not technically no contact. Not only are you not no contact, she's got one sex session that she got out of you, and she knows she's going to get more, and she can't wait. She loves the drama of you saying we can't do this, and that gives her something to work towards. It helps her, run away from her own issues by chasing after you and dragging you down with all of these great conversations about your relationship. So did I answer your question? And did I also explain to all of us who have been there through this exact same thing, the dynamics of the codependent nature of the relationship? So again, The point of this channel is do the 4 things. I can't, anything else that I do, this is entertaining. I have to admit I laughed numerous times when I read it. And I laughed at the lack of awareness that we have. Because obviously, I've done my best to reveal how ridiculous this whole thing is. But I'm also pointing out the lack of awareness that we have when we're in it. It is so obvious that this is extremely dysfunctional, codependent, addictive behavior, and that you're so full of hope and you are not aware of what the true essence of your relationship is. And why should you be? You haven't gone no contact yet. And as true as all that is, when you're on the outside of it, when you've done the 4 things and you can look back on it, this is actually quite funny. Not because we're making fun of you, we're laughing at ourselves because we've done it, we've been there. And anyway, so that's that. All right, so I took a look at a couple of comments there. Let's see, I don't know if there's any questions here. Again, if there is, I'm happy to take it. So Kyle Broderick, welcome to the channel. The way this works is if you see beneath you, Jameson, he's written the word question in all caps. I like it when people do that. It's not that big of a deal today because there isn't a lot of comments, but when it's full of comments, I scroll through all the noise looking for the questions. So next time you have a question, please do that so I don't miss it. You say, after the fantasy soap opera, what helped you start connecting with people normally again? How do you decide to give benefit of the doubt or not with someone new? The answer to the question is if you look above, you see Elvin is above you. She says hello. And then if you look above that, you see the 4 things. I've written them out. This channel is called The 4 Things That Heal BPD and MPD Abuse. If you're new to the channel, you don't know it, but most of the questions that people ask when they say, why does the borderline do this and blah, 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 my response is, when you do the 4 things, either those questions will be answered or you will find out that they are meaningless. So to answer best your question, what helped me was I did the 4 things. Saved my life. You ask, how do you decide to give benefit of the doubt or not with someone new? You don't have the ability to know right now who's safe and who isn't. But if you do the 4 things, you will. So my answer to your question is do the 4 things, and those questions, again, will either be answered for you or you'll find them to be meaningless. That last question, you won't need to answer that because the healing will come and you'll know. You'll know that you can trust people. You'll know that you'll be able to trust your instincts. You'll know when you're getting yourself in trouble by your own, because what gets you in trouble is not whether or not you can trust them. That's not what you need to worry about. I know that's how it feels. You think you're trusting and you're in a great spot and you're just doing your thing and people are coming and grabbing you and taking advantage of you and using you. That's how it feels to you. But the reality is that you seek out abusers and you want them to give you something on a selfish level, even if it's to be loved or be approved of. And so when you get to the point when you don't need that from everybody you encounter, then you have the ability to give unconditionally, which means you can be friendly to somebody without needing anything from them. And you'll also know whether or not this is somebody you want to spend time with. And you won't have to ask yourself whether or not can you trust them? You won't have to ask yourself that question anymore. And or in the process, you will make mistakes and you'll make these same kind of mistakes again. This won't be the last codependent relationship you'll be in. And you'll have a support system. You'll have a sponsor in CODA. You'll have friends in CODA. You'll have phone numbers. You'll be able to go and talk to people, and then you'll be able to rectify the mistakes and still hold on to your identity. And it'll be a learning lesson. It won't be some tragedy that rips your soul out. Or at least not to the same degree anyway. And it's, again, progress, not perfection. You don't have to worry about being perfect. Just do the best you can. Jameson question, is there nuance to being a codependent, trying to manipulate others' thinking and being aware of time, place, and person? I don't understand that question. Returning to real friends soon. Don't trust myself to regulate negative, too much information as last year. So again, Jameson, same dynamic. Jameson is somebody that I work with from my other channel, so we have a connection. So it's the same thing I always tell you, Jameson, that your main issue is just continuously judging yourself for your feelings. And as again, I'm happy to repeat it forever. A feeling is just that. It's just a feeling. You don't have to act on your feelings. And just because you have a feeling doesn't mean that you can't know how to take conscious, constructive actions. So for you, reaching out, having friends, acting to the best of your ability with unconditional friendship and love, even though you know that you're going to be filled with selfish, codependent, crazy, desires on people. You're going to want to, as you say, manipulate them. But the truth is, you don't know. You haven't gotten to the place yet. You're on your way, but you haven't gotten to the place yet where you actually know what is manipulative and what's not. Because a lot of your desires are honest and they're not manipulative, but your thing is to judge yourself because you had a borderline mom. So you can't do or think anything without second guessing and judging yourself. So I don't think you can tell the difference between an honest feeling and a manipulative feeling. I don't think at this point you can tell the difference. So accept yourself. What is the definition? My definition of enlightenment, you already know it. To accept yourself with all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, all of your intuitions, all of your instincts, all of your desires. Feel them all, happy, unhappy, positive, negative, pleasant, unpleasant, codependent, selfish, unselfish. Have all of those things, feel them. Do not judge yourself for your feelings, which is what you're doing, and take constructive action to the best of your knowledge, regardless of how you feel. And if you don't know, this is what sponsors are for. You call your sponsor up and you say, I'm wanting to call somebody and I don't feel comfortable. Am I making the right decision? And your sponsor will say, well, why? And you'll talk it through and your sponsor will give you some good advice. And that's what that's what code is all about. You say, you continue to say, was a whole lot of negative, dramatic stuff and not much positive. Should I purge somehow? I don't know what that means. What are you going to purge yourself of? Your feelings? You can't do that. You want to have your feelings. You want to cry over them. You want to write them. You want to talk about them. You can go ahead and have your feelings. But, this idea of purging means you're like, you're puking up bad fish. Like, you'll be, you're unclean. You have to purge yourself. There's, you don't know at this point what you have, what feelings you have, whether they're normal or unhealthy. You don't know yet because your instinct is to constantly judge yourself. And the idea of purging brings up, it's like fasting to get rid of my sins. Are you asking my question? Do you need to purge? I don't think you need to do that. I think you just need to love yourself and do the best you can. And this is what the great thing about it is. You don't know what the best you can is. It's real simple. You got these 4 things. Just do those 4 things every day to the best of your ability and don't judge it. The great thing about, the 12-step programs is with sponsors is, if you have a sponsor, you can just get direction. And sometimes, your sponsor will say, you'll be talking, I don't know what about it. And the sponsor will say, did you brush your teeth this morning? Yeah. Did you wash your clothes? Yep. Did you go to work? Yep. Did you feed your cat? Yep. Did you go to a meeting? Yep. Did you share? Yep. So then there's nothing left to do. You've done everything that you can. Do the next indicated step, meaning if you don't know what you're supposed to do, ask your sponsor, what should I do? And your sponsor might say, oh, well, get up, put on your shoes, tie your shoes. They're not going to tell you how to feel. They might say, write in your journal. They might say, work with your sponsee. But that's really how simple it is. It's not about how you feel. It's not about being good. It's not about passing any tests. It's very simple. You just do the next indicated step. And as long as you're focused on the simple things of just what I need to do right now, what I need to do today, just to function, and while you're doing that, you're doing the 4 things as best you can. You accept that you're going to be crazy and in a lot of pain and you can't escape your emotions and a lot of garbage is going to come up and your feelings will go up and you'll go down and you'll have good days and you'll have bad days. If you focus on what you do instead of how you're feeling, then one day will turn into two will turn into 4, and then pretty soon you'll still be crazy out of your mind, full of all kinds of uncomfortable feelings, but then at some point your sponsor will say, hey, you know, it's been 6 months and look at how much better your life is. And you'll look at your life and you'll realize that you have a more stable life, you have a more prosperous life, you have better friends. You still feel as screwed up as you did 6 months ago, but your life has gotten better, and your life has gotten better because of the actions that you've taken. So that's it. Just do the next indicated thing. Is it okay to gloss over the super heavy unless asked? Again, I don't know what that means. You know, you don't have to. When you meet somebody, look, here's the thing. If I hear you correctly, what you're saying is, if I meet somebody, do I have to sit down and get into all this deep stuff and purge and barf up? No. What you do, here's what you do. When you're with somebody, you get out of yourself and you think to yourself, what is the most constructive thing I can do for this person? Now, this sounds codependent because you think that's what you've been doing. But what you've been doing is, what do I need to say in order to make this person love me? How can I be perfect? Oh my God, I didn't say the right thing. Oh my God, I feel so guilty. I didn't do this. That's codependence. That's selfish. Selfless means you go, I have nothing to prove right now. There's a person standing in front of me. What is the kindest, most constructive thing I can do for them? Nod my head as they're talking about their day. Okay. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning and they want to come in and quote sleep on the couch, you say, I'm sorry, but I have to get up in the morning. It was really nice seeing you. I will call you later. Have a good night. That isn't something you want to do. It doesn't feel good, but it is the most constructive thing for that person. And so unselfishly, you do the thing you don't want to do. And now you can go to sleep. Maybe you won't sleep. You'll be up all night thinking about, oh my God, that she just came over, and then you'll be texting your sponsor at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever. It doesn't matter. You'll be up all night. Who knows? What matters is you did the constructive, selfless thing. And people don't care about all that. You know, when I was early in my recovery, I was nuts. I was really angry and I was really volatile and I could barely function and barely hold on to myself. I constantly felt like I was going to explode. I was constantly thinking homicidal and suicidal thoughts all the time. And I was taught just to act as if. So when I met somebody or was talking with somebody, I acted like a normal person. I didn't do what I wanted to do, which was either rage at them or dump all of my garbage on them or try and have sex with them immediately or whatever the hell my codependent thinking was. I would act as if I was somebody who was put together and was comfortable with myself, and I would talk to them like that person. And the amazing thing is that people started talking about me and saying, that Mike guy, I really like him. You know, he's so calm and he's so centered and he's just such a great guy to be around. I feel, you know, women would say things like, I feel safe around him. It's like, oh my God, if you knew what was going in my head whenever I was trying not to look away from your eyes. So that's all that matters, is that you act like somebody. You get out of yourself enough to act like somebody who gives a crap about other people, even if you don't. And people will thank you not for what you're feeling, they will thank you for what you do. Does that make sense? All right, I don't see any other questions, so we can make it a short one. So I came across those comments, I chuckled, and I thought they'd make great discussion, so I got on here and made a video. So I hope you're all doing very well. excuse me, have a happy new year, and stay safe and healthy. And of course, if you want to check out the other stuff on my other channel, feel free to go check it out. Having said that, I wish you all the best, and I will see you guys on the flip flop. Have a good one.